This video is brought to you thanks to the support of my patrons and YouTube members. My channel wouldn't exist without them. You can enjoy early access to my videos and a special role on my Discord server by joining them at www.patreon.com/yellowbird.it or following the link in the description of this video. I am aiming to reach 50 patrons so I can afford more games and equipment for my channel. You can also join our YouTube members, Tikon family, in order to have access to custom emotes during my live streams. We also have a goal. If I reach 400 members, I will stream an entire playthrough of GTA San Andreas where I collect every single vehicle. There is a mod for that, yes. I recently had my PSU go reactor number 4 on me. It will be nice if I could be prepared for those incidents, as I make a living off streaming and YouTube videos. With that said, I hope you enjoy the next video. If you spend enough time on the internet, you'll probably hear the phrase "people only remember this car thanks to Gran Turismo." While it's safe to say many have discovered obscure brands like Venturi thanks to these games, they have enough merit to stand by their own and be remembered outside of a video game. In fact, they are, and that's why we're able to discover their story with a simple Google search. However, there are cars which are truly forgotten to time, and their story is a complete mystery. This is the case of the Protomotors Spirra, a car which was featured on Gran Turismo 4, but it's so obscure that even the internet struggles to provide information. Until now. Join me as we unveil this piece of lost media on wheels. This story starts in 1994 when a Korean car designer by the name of Han Kim quit his job at SsangYong and founded Proto Design along with his wife. The firm started as a design studio, building a wide body kit for the Hyundai Tiburon known as the RTX, which was released in 1998. Their services also include the manufacturing of concept cars and restyling of vehicles. However, Proto Design went bankrupt in 1999, and a subsidiary called Protomotors, which was established in June of 1997, continued in its steps. The firm started as a coach builder specialized on limousines, to the point where they worked for the South Korean government, building a convertible limousine version of the Hyundai Yakuza. I am not sure if that's how you pronounce its name. Protomotors had the idea of creating a hand-built Korean supercar, and they took the first step in the year 2000 with the PS2. You can find a short film of the PS2 on YouTube which showcases the car, which probably has some obscure rights owner drooling at the thought of claiming this video. Not a chance. This video along with all of my sources will be linked in a pinned comment below. While technical details on the PS2 seem to be lost to time, we do know Protomotors polished its styling and presented it as the Spirra in 2002. At first glance, it was a competent package on the technical side. They started with a tubular space frame built out of steel, paired with panels made out of carbon fiber and steel. This lightweight body is paired with a mid-mounted 4.6 liters V8 made by Ford, the same engine used by the 4th generation Mustang Cobra SPT, with 320 horsepower and 430 Nm of torque, paired with a 6-speed manual gearbox made by Getrack. This package clocks a total weight of 1090 kilograms. It was supposed to reach a top speed of 315 km per hour with a 0 to 100 km per hour time of 4.4 seconds. Those are excellent performance numbers today, and even better in the early 2000s. Of course, it came with a price, $100,000, which adjusted for hyperinflation in 2024, yeah, you should add another 0. I would like to see if those performance claims can be replicated under testing. The Spirra should release soon anyway, as it's ready for production. Oh, it's not ready yet? You see, years will pass before any units were sold. Now, there are a few reasons why Protomotors couldn't progress. The main one was the steep requirements placed on South Korean manufacturers for homologation. Long story short, the South Korean government regulations didn't distinguish between mass and small manufacturers, meaning Protomotors had to meet the same requirements as a company like Hyundai. For one, they had to create multiple cars for crash testing. While the Spirra was subject to a head-on collision, more tests were required and Protomotors didn't continue with the homologation process, which meant the Spirra couldn't be sold. Now, while I found different statements, the simplest explanation suggests that Protomotors ran out of funds. That didn't stop them from parading the Spirra at different car shows where it kept building hype, especially the 2005 Seoul Motor Show before its home crowd. The company presented it as a range of vehicles where they will offer different engines, a turbo inline 4 and a naturally aspirated V6, the previously mentioned V8 sitting on top of the range. With Protomotors parading the car around and promising a release date on the short term, rumors started to spread across media outlets, with some sources mentioning 20 cars were created for export markets. This turned out to be a lie and no cars were produced. In fact, by 2007, Protomotors was bought out by Ulim Networks, a renowned renamed as All In Motors. Under new management, the Spirra prototype saw a redesign. The key difference outside aesthetics lies with a new engine. Instead of a 4V8, the new Spirra will use a 2.7 V6 from Hyundai, known as the Delta V6, the same engine used by the Hyundai Tiburon. Despite these changes, the project was still stuck on development hell, which meant it was the perfect time to start a racing program. Meet the Spirra 270 GT. Presented to the public in 2008, this lime green rocket has 600 horsepower, product of a set of turbochargers bolted onto the 2.7 V6, with a car weight of 1080 kg, with a claimed top speed of 330 km per hour and a 0 to 100 km per hour time of 3.8 seconds. One will think a manufacturer stuck with a car they didn't release in 8 years wouldn't even consider racing, let alone building this car, but so they did. A single 270 GT was produced. The prototype was shown at Yongin Speedway. While one will think a car with such performance claims will race against GT3s, this wasn't the case. The 270 GT joined a pack of Hyundai Tiburon on track, and that's all it did. There was also a drag variant of all things called the 460 GT. It seems these cars never made it past the prototype stage and they weren't offered for public sale. They probably wanted a promotional vehicle and collect track data to apply on the Spirra, maybe even sell a car or two in an attempt to secure more funding, as it will take 2 more years before the Spirra managed to be homologated for sale. Released to the public on March 30, 2010. Naturally, automotive journalists started to publish these feeds, and I've been able to find the original press statement from Olim where they claim, and I quote, "We took one of our prototypes with minimal homologation changes to race in the domestic GT Masters Championship, taking 2 consecutive wins against such rivals as fully race-prepared Porsche 911 GT3 RSRs, BMW M3s, and Nissan 350Zs." End quote. Maybe I am blind. Can you all help me to find the 911s, M3s, and 350Zs on this picture? But yes, the Spirra was finally released to the public. 3 different trims were offered: N with a naturally aspirated Delta V6, S with a turbocharged version of the same engine, and EX with a twin-turbo setup as the top range offering. All of these were offered with a manual transmission. Technical details are obscure, but I managed to find a test drive published by the website Golf News, where they sampled a Spirra S. This is probably the only test in English of this car and our only reference for its driving experience. Its performance is nothing to sneeze at, with 330 horsepower paired with a relatively average weight of 1350 kg with all the fluids. Its engine comes alive as 3000 RPM with a healthy dose of turbo lag on a car without traction or stability control. While it's clearly hard to tame, it has good handling and grip. It's not a bad car, it seems. I recommend reading this test, which I will leave on the pinned comment down below. While the Spirra was now on sale, its hand-built nature meant production figures were low, and most of them were sold in its native country. While I've been able to find some figures, I am skeptical about them. It is said 15 cars were produced in 2010 alone. Production continued through 2011, but troubles were brewing inside, as Olim Networks was caught on an embezzlement scandal. Since 2009, the CEO allegedly used his funds to pay off different loans, opening different restaurants across the world and falsifying company reports in order to hide the fact these funds were missing. As this scandal continued through the years, Olim's losses started to pile up and its subsidiaries started to feel this. By 2012, the situation at Olim Motors became public. Employees haven't been paid on time and the company started owing them money. Most of its workforce had left the company or stopped working altogether, and to make it worse, the company owed rent on their facilities. This situation made its way to the news in October while the company was investigated by South Korea's Exchange Commission, which delisted Olim Networks from its stock market on November 2012. So what is the best course of action after running out of funding and losing most of your employees? Present a 4-door version of your extinct supercar. Your eyes aren't deceiving you. This is the Olim Bangari, with a length of 5 meters and 60 centimeters, a mid-engine concept limousine. I have no idea how you will enter the rear seats on this car. Imagine paying top dollar to be chauffeured on a torture device. It was presented to the public in January of 2013, with an event completely disconnected from the reality, with dance performances and even a short film where the car is featured. A detailed blog post has been written about this event, which will be listed on my sources under the pinned comment. The Bangari never left the prototype stage. Only a single unit exists, but it will live rent-free on your minds from now on. The state of the company at this point wasn't good. With most of their employees gone and no funding, Olim Motors started to fall apart, but they managed to present themselves at the 2013 Seoul Motor Show. A facelift version of the Spirra was presented. It was supposed to mount a 3.8 liters Hyundai V6 and 3 different trims were offered. Once again, they were composed by a naturally aspirated single-turbo and twin-turbo engines. The final evolution of the Spirra managed to sell 3 units before disappearing from the radar. An EV version of the Spirra supposedly exists, but it's uncertain if it ever left the prototype stages, but it can be seen for a few seconds on a YouTube video. The next time Olin did anything was in 2015. A set of sketches were published for a new Spirra in 2015. By December, a clay model was being built, or well, parts of it at least. After this, Olin Motors seems to have vanished and it didn't produce or develop any new products. Their story is chaotic to say the least, and they spend more time stuck on development hell than actually selling any cars, or spending their investors' money on anything but the Spirra. I admit I found most of this information in Korean, and I'm certain some details were lost in translation. At the same time, information is scarce even on its native language, so I am certain there's more than meets the eye. However, most resources on English aren't as complete. I am confident I'm the first to present this story to the public. I hope this one doesn't get stolen like the first time I did this and presented the story behind Top Gear's most disastrous special. I suppose it's good advertisement that my work is good enough to get stolen. If you appreciate the work I do, you can always help my channel to grow by leaving a like on this video and subscribing to my channel. Sharing my content on different platforms so more people can discover these videos is also invaluable to me. While I can't drive a real Spirra for the time being, I can give it a proper test drive on Gran Turismo 4, where the original prototype with a 4V8 is present. I admit this car surprised me. I took it for a couple of laps on Grand Valley and I couldn't get to terms with it, because it doesn't feel like a traditional mid-engine car thanks to its weight distribution of 43 front, 57 rear. It's almost like a rear-engine car, and once you come to terms with this fact, the Spirra starts to make more sense. What doesn't make sense are its soft springs. This car has an absurd amount of body roll from factory, which makes it really unstable, especially at high speeds, which this car can reach with ease. You can feel that block of American steel pulling the Spirra through. It has decent torque, which can make it a handful at low speed corners, which can be tamed with throttle control. The Spirra feels quick for a car with 320 horsepower, and its stock gearing is okay. There is no such thing as good gear ratios from factory. This package is competitive on multiple events without any modifications. It can complete the NA Cup and professional events with ease, and some endurance events as well. El Capitan 200 miles is virtually free with this Spirra, even if it can appear as an opponent on the grid. I've been able to leave my opponents in the dust while learning its quirks, which led to some accidents. I am pretty sure it can compete in other events without increasing its power, but you want a car which is consistent for endurance events. So I will give you a few setup tricks to improve the Spirra's handling. Our shopping list starts with a racing suspension kit, followed by a brake balance distributor, all 3 stages of weight reduction, all drivetrain upgrades. Remember, they go in stages, so you want to buy the racing gearbox, clutch, flywheel and fully customizable LSD, and the GT wing. In order to fix the Spirra's floaty suspension, I made this setup which goes as follows. You should have enough time to pause the video and copy them if you wish. This suspension setup should be accompanied by the following LSD settings in order to improve stability. While LSD settings are flexible and they depend on your driving style, the Spirra feels really unstable under braking at higher speeds, and these settings correct this feeling. But the biggest part of this puzzle comes for free. On the settings tab, one has the option to add a ballast to each car. We'll add a ballast over the front axle to correct the Spirra's weight distribution. 30 to 40 kilograms should be enough. The balance indicator works in a weird way. -50 indicates the ballast is placed on the front, while 50 indicates its placement on the rear. We want -50 in this case, so we'll leave it there. Next, we got the GT wing. God's greatest gift for us should be at 25 on the front and 30 on the rear. For the brake balancer, you should have 6 on the front and 3 on the rear, and all of these changes should improve the Spirra's stability and make its handling more consistent, but it's better if you treat this as a rear-engine car. I always want to push each car to its limits and challenge myself in the process. I often do this during my live streams, which take place at the time zones shown on screen. On this YouTube channel, I'll be celebrating my first year as a streamer, trying to complete Gran Turismo 2 with a single car. I am sure we'll have a good time if you join us. I decided to inspire myself with the Spirra's questionable racing story and gave it a second chance to challenge GT3s, well, the closest I could find, Japanese touring cars. In order to compete with these cars, I added a racing muffler, stage 2 NA tuning, racing chip, port and polish, engine balancing, and as always, an oil change. As a curious note, you can't fit a nitro skid to this car. I figured the Spirra deserved to shine on its home turf, so it's 10 laps on sale against these race cars. It's a really simple circuit and sorting through the pack isn't too hard. I have to chase a Castrol NSX which took off, but the Spirra has good acceleration and top speed, which are vital on the circuit. If it can outpull race car, it is good enough for me. Our Reminder, I have similar power and weight than my opponents. I wasn't expecting this race to be so easy, so I moved to Suzuka, a harder circuit where my lower downforce should become a disadvantage. Given how the Spirra lacks stability, Suzuka feels more narrow than it really is, and I made a mistake on the first lap while overtaking an opponent, with another Supra getting caught on the crossfire. Once again, I find myself chasing a Castrol NSX as I take 130R a bit too hard, and I have to correct myself before the chicane, but I still managed to make the overtake in a questionable manner. I am at disadvantage on the first corner as I have to brake much earlier than my opponents, and yes, I have the racing brakes equipped as I am using racing hard slicks before anyone asks. The NSX remains close to me through the S-curves where my lack of downforce comes to bite me. Talk about an unsafe re-entry, that NSX was so close to me I could ruin its life with a harassment accusation. Our little battle continues as it doesn't manage to pull away from me. Surprisingly, I have to hold my lane carefully as I can overtake it before the spin curve. It is really hard to go too wide, but I managed to pull it off, securing first place. My troubles aren't over as the NSX behind me was overtaken by a Supra which is right behind me. I lost too much time on the first corner and allowed the Supra to pass through, which leaves me in second place, chasing an opponent yet again. While I'm able to attempt an overtake by the end of the third lap, I throw it all away by touching the sand. We start the final lap side by side. I have to praise my opponents for these clean and fair battles we are having. Usually you want to be as far away from the AI because they love coming into contact with you, and you just had to do it, Supra. You just had to crash into me and send both of us into the sand. Maybe you'll find the brain after a pilgrimage through the grasslands of Suzuka. Oh yeah, I won this race because the rest of the pack was too far away from me. After these races, I wanted to take my challenge a step further. I took this same Spirra to the 300 kilometers of Grand Valley, a 60 laps endurance race where I'll be facing more touring cars. The main challenge of the circuit lies with its high tire wear and the fact I can rely on downforce to carry me through fast-paced corners. At the same time, it's quite easy to make a mistake on the first braking zone and lose tons of time which I can't recover. I know the Spirra has the pace to leave my opponents behind, but it can only complete 8 laps with hard racing slicks, and that final lap can be nerve-wracking by the end. Grand Valley also has a long pit lane, which means you'll need a gap of 30 seconds or more to hold the lead after a single stop. Having to stop so often is a disadvantage, as the AI can afford to stop much later. In this grid, I've been paired with the Mazda RX-7 LM Edition and Sanabi Nismo R34 Skyline, which are fast and stop every 15 and 16 laps respectively. This means the RX-7 will stop while I'm completing the final lap of my stint, and the R34 will stop on the same lap as myself. Given it is behind the RX-7, I have a free stop and I can beat them both on pit strategy. I had this back and forth for 60 laps where I managed to claim victory over them. Now, I should say the Spirra can have more power with a supercharger kit, but I don't think it's necessary for this race. I also took the Spirra to Suzuka for an endurance race where I'm confident it is competitive as it becomes a race of pit strategy. I think it could be fun to try this race live with you all. Maybe we can do that, right? You all love watching a random NSX murder me as I leave the pit lane. With that said, it is time to thank all of you who have joined me on this ride and the supporters who fund my efforts with their hard-earned cash, our YouTube members, Takei family, and those who gift memberships during my live streams, and Patreons. We thank them as follows: our amateur racers, professional racers, and world champions: Line Dev, See What Happens Racing UK, Sundar Kiselli, Enzo Lassonieri, Hunter Kaufman, Josh Peak, Lonnie Murray, Tyscam, and Espriel. If you want to join these wonderful people, you can do so at www.patreon.com/YellowBellYT. You can find this link to my Patreon in the description of this video. There are different tiers starting at $3 a month. You will get early access to my videos along with a special tier on my Discord server, which you can also find in the description of this video. Your support is invaluable as I make a living of streaming and YouTube videos, and every single supporter makes a massive difference. If you want to discover more of my content, different playlists should appear on screen with all of my videos. With that said, I hope to see you soon on my next livestream or next video. Take care and bye for now.